biggest thing is don't shoot the messenger, because that's all I am. I'm just giving you the messages that the universe or the spirit guides, different souls want you to hear and know. It was going to be a slow process, but the spirit world was like, hell no, let's do it now. And that's why within 2 weeks I was channeling. And really in the beginning for me it was like, oh, this is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Why me? Why would I be able to channel? You know, this is crazy. And I really went through these stages of, no, it's ridiculous and crazy and it's not real. It's really about trusting yourself, and trusting your intuition, and if something tells you that this is wrong, you know, think about it and see, is it really wrong? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you're not going to know unless you try.
We teamed up a couple of months back to start this project. And it's very interesting that actually the three of us met at the same place, and this is how all this started.
Yeah.
And some idea was formed, and now it's coming to fruition. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today, to sit here with Jonathan, and he will be our first interviewee. This can be considered our pilot, right?
It's our first interview.
Yeah.
First of this kind.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And yeah, so Jonathan, he's a very interesting character. One reason why we started this project was to interview people who had some type of internal breakthrough in their life and who started doing something that we consider to be part of the new world, something that's coming, the old is kind of going. And yeah, so Jonathan is our man today. He is from South Africa, Johannesburg, right?
Johannesburg, yes.
And he considers himself to be a medium,
yeah,
through which energies come through him, and then he can help people in this world with whatever they need.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So I'll let you make your own introduction.
Okay. So I'm Jonathan. This has been a very interesting journey so far. It hasn't been a very long one. I've always considered myself to be quite spiritual, and I've always wanted to help people. So I was always doing jobs like in customer service, you know, because that was my way of helping people. I never ever felt fulfilled doing these jobs, obviously because it wasn't what I was meant to be doing. Then in June 2020, my girlfriend broke up with me, and normally if something like that happens, some loss in my life, I would drink the pain away, you know, and that's how I would deal with those kinds of situations. This time was very different. I decided I'm not going to drink, and it was a really difficult process because then I had to actually face what was going on for a change instead of just drinking it away and forgetting about it. I really had to face this, and it was such a process. I went through every single emotion you can think of. I then was introduced to a shaman, and I did Changa with him. Changa is like the lighter version of ayahuasca. After I did that journey, it was so awakening, you know. I came out of that experience just having this feeling of knowing. I can't explain what I knew, but I just knew it, and that was it. After that, I started having really real dreams that at first weren't making much sense to me, but then within a few days of having these dreams, it was happening, you know, and I was getting answers, and it was a very confusing time. And then I was drawn to a medium who I've been friends with on Facebook for 3 or 4 years, but we never ever spoke to each other. I used to just see her posts, and that was it. And one of the dreams I had was about the 8th of August, and it was a very specific dream. And you know, I received some answers about this date, but it just wasn't enough. There was something else to this date. And then this medium posted on her Facebook page that her birthday was the 8th of August. And I was like, this is it, you know, that's what really pulled me to contact her. Her name's Samantha. I contacted her, and one of her first couple of messages that she sent to me, she sends voice notes, she doesn't type. She was laughing and she said, oh, I've got messages for you. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, you know, we'll see what happens. And then we couldn't figure out a date, and you know, wasn't the easiest of processes to actually get with each other. She's in Johannesburg, I'm in Zagreb, so we couldn't meet face to face, and then I was working and she was doing her thing. Eventually we said, okay, the Friday we will meet. I said, okay, that's great. And then on the Wednesday I went to Miragoy, the cemetery, and my ex-girlfriend's late grandfather was laid there to rest, and I was just sitting and asking him questions and, you know, just trying to make sense of my life. And it was a very emotional experience, sitting at the cemetery and speaking and asking these questions.
So when you say speaking to him, you spoke to the grandfather?
To the grandfather.
Oh, okay.
I was asking him specific questions, and I don't know what I was hoping for, but it was just stuff that I needed to get out. And you know, I was there for about 45 minutes and went through all of the emotions of being there. And then on the Friday, finally met with Samantha. I was super nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I met with a medium ever, and this was my first time. And you know, she was giving me information, you know, stuff that I hadn't told her or spoken about, and she was telling me. She was telling me about the breakup that I had gone through, and she was telling me why I had gone through this breakup. And then she said, oh, I've got some answers for you. And she started answering the questions that I had asked my ex-girlfriend's late grandfather on the Wednesday at the cemetery. I didn't tell anybody that I was at the cemetery. I didn't tell anybody about the questions I had asked, but all of these answers were coming through. That was super emotional, because that for me was the point of understanding, like, this is real, you know, this is really happening. I'm getting these answers that nobody could have ever known what the questions were, and that really opened me up now to this. And it was great. I enjoyed the answers. They were also quite confusing, but you know, they had specific points, and that was great for me.
Would you say that that specific point, getting those answers, that was like the proof you needed to?
That's exactly
kind of,
it.
yeah.
That was exactly the proof that I needed, that this was real. You know, that Samantha wasn't this mystic with a crystal ball in front of her making up stuff. It was really real. I mean, the questions I was asking were so specific, and the answers that she was giving me were for those questions, you know, and that, for me, that's when it was like
the tipping point.
The tipping point, like, there's the proof. If I needed proof, it was handed to me, you know, on a silver platter, where it didn't make me question Samantha's abilities or the universe anymore. It was there in front of me, plain in sight. And from there, Samantha said, you know, there's 3 things that we need to start talking about, and that's past life regressions and childhood regressions and psychic abilities. I was like, yeah, alright, whatever, we'll see about that. And then obviously I didn't know anything about past life regressions. I never thought about it, you know, or anything like that. And we set an appointment for the next Friday where we'll try a childhood regression. And, you know, she said psychic abilities, and I thought, you know, I'll ignore that part because that doesn't make sense to me.
That's woo-woo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, and then we did the childhood regression, and very quickly moved into a past life regression in the same session. which for Samantha that was strange. That doesn't generally happen. Childhood
in one
regression.
piece, right?
In one piece, yeah. When she does a childhood regression, that's where it is. So she had planned, this to be a couple of weeks process, and the universe had other ideas, like let's get this done now and fast. So I did the childhood regression straight into a past life regression, and Samantha was like, okay, we obviously being pushed to get you to the part of the psychic abilities. So again, I was like, yeah, we'll see. And then the next week, I was only working until, I think, 1 in the afternoon. Oh no, it was summer. So I was actually not working at all. And I would do stuff during the day and, have an afternoon nap, which was so nice to be able to do. But then I would go lie down to have a nap and I'd start hearing things, and that was confusing. And at one point they were showing me a pen. So I got up and I got a pen and I started writing down these thoughts that were coming to my mind. Write it down, and then that was it, and I was able to have a nap, which was great. And then the next day, I went again to have a nap, and I'm lying there, and I'm hearing Samantha speaking, and she's having this whole conversation. I was like, this is so weird. Why am I imagining Samantha's voice and this very specific conversation that she's having? So I decided to just ignore it, and I managed to have my nap. And I woke up and I really had this urge to ask her, did you have this conversation with somebody today? And I asked her, and she just replied, that's exactly the conversation I had today. And exactly at the time that you heard this conversation. And she said, okay, we don't need any more signs. We really need to start working on this. That was the Wednesday. Then the Thursday, she said, all right, we're going to try some things. One of my clients, her brother disappeared in Ireland. So she sent me a photo of him, and she said, just look at the photo and whatever you feel or see, speak it, and send it to me in messages and let me see. So, initially I was like, this is all my imagination working on creating a story about this guy. And she said, that's fine, let that imagination flow. And, it was fun, but the things that I was seeing or imagining, it wasn't so fun. I'd imagined this guy had disappeared or left his family and decided to end his life. And he ended his life in water. So I felt so strange saying this, but Samantha wanted me to just get it out. So I got it out, and the next day I had a session with Samantha, and she said, right, now we're going to try and channel this guy and see exactly what is going on.
Oh, for you?
I'm going to channel.
Oh, you're going to channel. That's your first channeling?
The first ever.
Okay.
So Samantha guided me into this, and I started telling her what I was seeing and what I was feeling, and she was guiding me with certain questions to ask this guy, and I was asking, and there was one point where it made me physically sick, and Samantha stopped it there and said okay, let's ask the universe to stop with such hard effects on myself physically.
Yeah, because he, as you said, he wanted to end his life. So
yes,
I can imagine that if the emotions are involved, it wasn't pleasant.
Not at all. Yeah. And that was a good experience, and it was very interesting for me. But still, we had no confirmation of what actually happened to this guy, and why and how and everything else. So it was just out there, still. For me, it was my imagination doing all of this. And then on the Sunday, I was sitting having a coffee with a friend of mine, and Samantha sent me a message, and she said, we need to talk, I need to tell you some stuff. And that's when she told me that this guy who went missing, his body was found in the sea, and he had committed suicide by drowning himself. That for me was so heavy, because to me, I had imagined this happening. You know, I imagined that to life, basically. So it felt like it was on me. Luckily, Samantha is really good at what she does, and she really guided me through this to say, like, you are just the messenger. You know, you had this to tell to somebody, and you didn't create it. You know, so you were just passing on those messages, and that really put me at ease. You know, like not taking his suicide on myself. It's something that happened, that there was nothing that I could have ever done to change that course that he had chosen. So that really put me at ease, and that's when we realized that I do have these abilities. So I started working with Samantha every week and working on this channeling, and Samantha said, oh, you should try practicing on other people, and I said, oh, that's a good idea, I'll try. And she added me to one of these WhatsApp groups that she's got, and she said, John is looking for people to practice on, and my phone exploded. There were so many people that wanted readings. And that made me really nervous because I was good at it while I had Samantha guiding me. Now I would be doing this by myself, and it totally freaked me out, you know. And initially it's like, oh, I don't know if this is for the person or if I'm just making stuff up. And then slowly, the more and more I started doing it, the more it started making sense for me, you know, because then I could distinguish what were my own thoughts and what were messages for the other person. And then I started practicing with people in person, so friends that I've got in Zagreb. I started practicing, and it was a lot of fun, and it really started becoming fun, and I was really enjoying this whole process of this. And then, you know, I was told that you need to tell more people, and I felt like this is too strange to be discussing with people, you know. Close people, that's fine, but just randomly having this conversation with people, it's difficult because you don't know what people think of the spiritual side of life. And then I started having more conversations, but with strangers, because in my mind it's like, oh, I'm never going to see them again, it's okay. And then these strangers actually became really interested and wanted to come to me. And there was one client that I had, and she came in here and you could see the stress on her face. You know, everything was in her forehead. You could just see there was tension and a lot of emotion in her face. And I started doing a reading and giving her information that was coming through for her, you know. And my biggest thing is, don't shoot the messenger, because that's all I am. I'm just giving you the messages that the universe or the spirit guides, different souls want you to hear and know. And we had a great session with her, and she obviously had a lot of questions, because you can imagine being given this information, you're going to start questioning a lot of the stuff. And then the channeling ended, and we sat and had a cup of tea afterwards, and she looked like a totally different person. You know, the stress and emotion that she was keeping in her face just totally disappeared. That for me was the point of like,
you're doing something good.
I'm doing something good, you know, because the minute I saw that stress was no longer here, I realized that she isn't holding on to the stress anymore. And that for me was such a great moment that really pushed me to start talking to more people about this. And it really has been an incredible journey. I've had people come to me that have not liked what I've had to say at all, whether they've really left here angry, but because I told them stuff that they don't want to hear, you know. And again, I'm just the messenger. I'm not creating this stuff. And with that, the one I remember, there was such specific stuff. Like, I knew the universe wanted me to communicate to her about a person. They gave me the person's name, the neighborhood that this person lived in, and they showed me that he's got a dog. And this client of mine didn't want to know about this. She was very upset with me. And again, I was like, I'm sorry, but there's clearly something that you need to resolve with this person, and that's why it's coming through like this. So she didn't want to speak to me for a while. But then I think a month or two after we had met, somebody contacted me who was a recommendation from her. So obviously something resonated for her to recommend me to somebody. So, it really varies, the people that you get. Some are really closed off and don't want to hear what you're giving them. Others are totally open and, want to just take as much as they can get. So it's been a very fun experience.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to reflect on that, because a lot of things that you said, I just got questions. So one of the first that I want to start off with was there some kind of a calling or connection to connect us free? In a way, did you get some kind of an insight on that you would... Actually, I have to explain this to the viewers.
Yes.
Because we met on a small group session with Jonathan, and I maybe it was in the mail or not, I'm not sure, but I didn't read it, and I didn't know that he would be there. And thing obviously what got me very, very curious and excited is that, Jonathan, you let me explain a bit about myself, because I've been through a lot of mystics, through a lot of holistic let's say areas in the past 7, 8 or more even years, and I heard a lot of the gurus or the mystics or the card readers or whatever, I'm not judging them, but none of them had such specific information like you did.
Yeah.
And that fascinated me. That's one of the key things that led me to this interview with Philip also, but these are really specific answers. And I think that's at least part of the reason why people get so curious when they go in some sort of how do you say it, channeling with you,
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the other question, but
Your question was, did you have any specific visions or
about
information about like the three of us or
No,
something like this?
coming together and
So that day that we met each other, that all made sense with the two of you, Then I think I spoke to you after, and you brought up this idea about what you guys had planned, and that you would like to interview me. And at first, that was very, I was interested, but that was really opening myself up, and that made me a little bit nervous. But then I spent more time imagining this interview and this whole process and how it would look and what it would do for you and what it would do for me, and it just started to make more and more sense, because the two of you have experienced me and my processes. It just made total sense to actually do this interview with you and to open myself up, because I'm meant to be doing this for people, and having this opportunity to be interviewed by the two of you and opening myself up is really opening myself up to other people and seeing that I am there to help them if they're wanting the help. Obviously I don't do it the old school way. Don't provide medications or anything like that. I just give them information that their higher self or their spirit guides want them to have. And
I want to just acknowledge and thank you for this whole opportunity and for this interview, because a lot of the, as you said earlier, a lot of the mystic realm, let's say it like that, is kind of closed off. And as we spoke, we are moving into a newer, let's say, dimension, but I want to demystify the world. It's on a new system, on a new level, on a new kind of consciousness, you know. And the mystic realm should be open for all to understand in a more clearer way.
I totally
So I
agree.
really thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
This is
Thank
a
you.
big step up, at least for this, let's say, area, because we are now in Zagreb, in Croatia.
Yes.
This is going on English, but still, for this area, it's kind of a closed-off subject, you know.
It is, yeah.
We, as you probably, you're living here for 4 years now. Yeah. You probably noticed that it's a lot of our religion type-based culture is still present here. I'm just comparing it to the rest of the world. At least most of it, especially the western part, is like loosening up.
It is, yes. It is really. But so what I've noticed is definitely in the last year and a half probably is that people in Croatia are also loosening up. You know, it's not so structured anymore. Like this is how it has to be because of whatever reason. You know, people are really becoming a lot more open to discussing spirituality and to be discussing alternative ways of living and alternative lifestyles. And it's really, I don't know if it's because of the people that I surround myself with, but I've really noticed this a lot more, you know. And what I realized is the more I speak, the more other people open up, you know, because a lot of people find the spiritual way of living, but then they, because I mean society, culture, religion, all of that is shaping the way people should be living, you know, so people don't really discuss their spiritual experiences or, you know, awakenings that they've been going through or things that they've been dealing with. Some people put it down to depression, like I'm just depressed or sad, but you're not actually depressed. It's, you know, this whole spiritual awakening, your whole system is resetting. And now, by me putting myself out there, especially with this interview, it's opening up the doors for people to be able to speak, you know. It's letting them know that it is okay to discuss spirituality, you know. It's not, we're not living in those times where you'll be killed for discussing alternative livings that aren't religion-based, you know. You are able to discuss it. The more you start discussing it and talking about it, the more other people will start doing it, and you'll see that you're actually not alone, you know. And there is a lot more happening in the world than just what's happening now and in society. And me opening up like this is showing people that I am available, obviously, if they want to discuss certain things that have been happening in their lives, or if they want readings, or, you know, to make sense of things.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to acknowledge and the gratitude about this interview, because we have some of these readers, let's say mystics on the TV, but I think it's still a bit of a closed off realm. And as you said, people are not so much open to talk about it, and they're opening up. What's a big thing.
Yes.
And this is kind of a big thing, at least for me and for us, I think.
Yes.
It's our first one. Definitely, it's a big thing. So I'm really excited about this. Just to say it, to let's say, come out with it in my own way.
Yes.
You know? So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, going back to your abilities, actually I have a question here. What I heard so far, I mean, you are a medium, you channel like from other beings some things that they want to get through, right?
Yeah.
But other things that you described were, to me, seemed like remote viewing in a way. example of this guy that died in the water. Maybe later you got some information from him directly, but it also seems like in the beginning you didn't. It was like you were kind of there, you got pictures about what happened.
Yeah.
Which is also a different type of ability, let's call it, like remote viewing, like what I
Yes.
call it. So would you say you have, can you see the differences between the different things that you do, that you channel, or would you say that you have different types of ways that you can access?
So when I'm channeling for a person, then it's a specific way. Like it might come through as a thought, or I'll get shown something specific to that person or specific words. So that's a lot easier. But like you said, with this remote viewing, it just tends to happen. So with that guy that committed suicide, I was in that process and experiencing, his motions and what was happening. It has happened where generally it's somebody really close to me that I see something that is happening or will happen, and I just know it. So a friend of mine got engaged and I knew, but just through myself, and 3 weeks later she told me that she got engaged, and I was very excited for her. She told me and I said, oh, I knew, sort of didn't really have to tell me. There's a lot of times where I get told and it's just a confirmation of what I already knew. I don't do anything specific to bring that on. It's sort of, you can say the spirit world wanting me to know certain things and certain information, and to have that certain information, it's sort of like it's preparing me to hear it physically. Yeah, so it really varies.
So do you have a certain technique that you kind of access, or you can't really control it that much? Is that what you want to say?
Well, with that part I can't really control it that much. It comes to me when it needs to come to me. Yeah.
But how does in relate to that, how does the normal, let's say, session work with a client? I have to ask you, baby, because
Yes.
I'm curious and I'm thinking that everybody else is. How does that part work?
Yeah.
In sense of it coming through, and actually that's the other question, just to remember, what is actually coming through? I'm really curious about that part. But how does it? Do you make some sort of a deal with your highest whatever?
Yeah.
My client is coming at that time, and can we open a portal or whatever at that time, or how does it happen?
Yeah, it's sort of exactly like that. So say I have you coming to me at 3 o'clock, then for about 45 minutes I just, calm myself, start releasing the events of the day so that nothing of mine is present. And when you get here at 3, it's really your space and your time, and probably about 15 or 20 minutes before you come, I sit in meditation. I've got certain music that I play and listen to, and I ask the guides, your guides, my guides, the universe, to be there and supporting us, and to give me the information that is necessary for you, the information that you're needing, the guidance that you're needing, and just to bring through the highest good for both of us. And then generally I'm there. I've got, this feeling of connection, and, I ask for protection for myself, of course, because I'm opening myself up to other realms and to other energies. And then, if it's in person, then you'll come and we'll talk for a few minutes. And generally, once you get here, I'm ready to start channeling already, but I don't want to just push you straight into it even though you're excited, you know why you're coming to me. But I just like to give you some time to just like relax and get off your chest, whatever, something happened during the day that you just need to speak and get it off. And then I generally start, you know, and information comes through. Sometimes they give me specific names, or, you know, lately they've been showing me people's pets. I've been seeing people's dogs that have come through, and I think 2 weekends ago we did a mediumship workshop, and somebody's horse came through, and I'm like, okay, this is very strange, like what's up with the horse? And, and I was like telling her the horse is apologizing. Yeah, the horse threw me off and I broke my leg and hip, and it was chaos, and like, okay, you know, so sometimes stuff doesn't make sense to me, but I have to say it for the person because it will make sense to you, because I don't know you, you know, I'm not living in your life, so I don't know certain information, but I have to just say what's coming through to me, because then you'll be like, yeah, I had a horse and, you know, I fell off the horse and broke my hip, you know, so then it makes sense, like, okay, and then I can continue channeling. A lot of the time they pause the information that's been given to me, and that's opening a space for you to ask questions. You know, what's amazing is that you have this opportunity to ask any question that you want to ask, and I've had some amazing questions, like, should I learn to surf? You know, that was my favorite question, because you can ask the universe absolutely anything, and that one question, should I learn to surf? What a beautiful question that was for me, you know, like so nice and simple. It could have asked me the meaning of life, or the meaning of their life, whatever it was, but surfing. And it was great. And I enjoy the question and answer part of the channeling, because then that's specific information that you're looking for, that then I'm able to provide in a guided way, you know, because the answers aren't coming from me, because, you know, most of the time I haven't experienced anything that you're asking me. It's, the answers are given to me, you know, and it's for your highest good. So it's a lot of fun. I never know what to expect. I had one reading with somebody. We did it online. For a few days it was on and off, on and off, on and off, and we set it like, right, it's going to be this day at 8 p.m. and we met, and it was absolute chaos. The neighbors were ringing my bell, the dogs were going crazy. So if I'm doing a reading in person, the dogs go somewhere else. But if it's online, then the dogs chill out, and, you know, they're really good at just being relaxed. But then if there's activity outside and the bell's ringing or knocking on the door, then they go crazy. And there was just nothing that evening that was making it easy for me to channel for this client of mine. Eventually I said to her, we have to meet on Sunday at 10 a.m. And that confused me. I'm like, why Sunday? You know, Sunday is my day. Why would I say that? But that's what was guided. And then we managed Sunday 10 a.m. and it was super process. It's so nice and smooth, and, you know, so I think it was the Thursday before, it just wasn't meant to be, you know. And there's always some form of reasoning behind it. I don't know what that reasoning was. Maybe some event needed to take place before, whatever it was, but then I was guided, like, okay, it can't be today, it has to be on Sunday. That's only ever happened once, luckily. With other people, I've had people contact me, like, when can you see me? And I tell them, all right, let me check and I'll get back to you. And then I totally forget and just never respond to the person. And then they message me like, hello. Like, yeah, shit, sorry. All right, let me check this time and I'll get back to you. It just doesn't happen. And it's not because I'm forgetting, because this is something I really enjoy and I really want to do for people, but it's sort of the universe's way of saying, no, they're not ready yet. So it's not going to happen. So you're going to keep forgetting about this
that
person.
happens.
It really does. You know, the universe really plays a huge part, a huge role in our lives. And I understand that now because of how I've been living since June or July last year. And it's now plays a huge role in how and when and why I do things, you know. So when it comes to readings, most of the time, it's like, yes, we'll do the reading and that's it, you know, we'll do it. And it gets done. But there's two people that this is constantly happening with, you know, where I don't see the message, or I don't see a notification, or I see it and I tell them, all right, I'll let you know, and then I just totally forget. And I feel terrible, but then I realize, like, okay, it's not because I'm terrible at communicating with people, because I'm not. It's just the universe is saying, like, it will happen when it's meant to, you know.
No show for now.
That's it. And I've had people that tell me, oh, I want to have a reading with you. Like, well, you've got my information, you tell me when you're ready. And in 3 months, like, hey, I'm ready. Like, who are you? You know, because it happens when it's meant to happen, you know. And like, there's certain events in life that need to happen for some reason, and then you can come to me because, you know, then a lot more stuff will make sense. It really just depends.
I think it's good to explain generally for the viewers, actually, because a lot of the times, in my own experience also, I think in any life, in anybody's, it's when you really want something for whatever reason, and you're going after it with all your force and it isn't happening, there's a reason for why it isn't happening.
Totally,
you know?
yeah.
And sometimes you really have to let it go, you know, and
Yes.
you explained it perfectly with your channeling also.
Yeah.
Some people are maybe not ready for that information at that time.
Exactly. You know, it's like, I mean, I can use like couples as an example. Like, they want to have a baby, and they're really trying, and it's, you know,
Good example.
a lot of stress, and so much then is happening, and just everything is happening except this baby. It's just not happening. And as soon as they decide, like, okay, let's stop trying because we're just putting ourselves under so much stress, let's forget about it, and in a few months we'll try again. And as soon as that stress has disappeared and they've stopped thinking about having this baby, they fall pregnant, you know? And it's because there's not that pressure that they're putting themselves under to fall pregnant. You know, it's just happening naturally, and we need to realize that, you know, our thoughts do affect our body and how we do things and how we respond to things, you know. Putting yourself under pressure then puts yourself under stress, and that puts your organs under stress, and then the body's like, hold on, we're not in a position to create another life right now. We're too stressed out and dealing with our own system. And then as soon as you relaxed and forget about trying to have a baby, it happens, you know. And that's sort of like that. Constantly going after something and wanting. It's good to want and go after something, but sometimes you need to just take a step back and go, hold on, something's not working. You know, relook at it and figure it out. That brings me to another topic that I really love so much. It's that internal struggle that people have. You know, that internal struggle is between the head and the heart. You know, it's between the mind, the brain and intuition. And people say like, oh, you know, this really was the right thing, but it's taking so long. And that's, you know, following the brain. The brain is there to do what's right for you, but to protect you as well. So it takes you on the safest route. And sometimes the safest route is really the
longest route.
Yeah. Whereas your intuition, following your heart, it's also doing what's right for you, but not necessarily the safest route. It's just taking you like, come on, let's do this and let's go. And then the brain kicks in like, no, slow down, let's try it this way, you know. So it's that internal struggle. Oh, I shouldn't, you know. It's the brain saying, let's go this way nice and slowly, and the heart going, fuck it, let's go this way now, you know. And lately I've been following my intuition a lot more, where take into consideration what the brain is wanting, and then I look at what the heart is wanting, and it all leads to the same thing. It's just the matter of how it happens, you know. And you follow your heart, it's a bit of a quicker route, and it's a lot more fun. You know, there's a lot more that could happen. You know, something could go wrong, but something could go wrong anyway, you know. It's really about trusting yourself and trusting your intuition, and if something tells you that this is wrong, you know, think about it and see, is it really wrong? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you're not going to know unless you try, you know. Obviously, if you're standing on the edge of a cliff and saying, oh, if I do this, what will happen? Don't be stupid, like, think about that, you know. You are standing on the edge of the cliff, but just step back and keep yourself alive, you know. All for trying stuff out, but don't try stuff that's really going to put yourself in danger, obviously, you know. But like other routes, like, oh, I like this person, but if I tell them this might happen, if I don't tell them this, try it out, what do you have to lose, you know. So it's really trusting.
I must say I got a lot of answers from you now that I didn't even get to say the question. You know? So thank you for this. I just want to acknowledge that. And maybe Philip has some more questions for you.
Yeah.
In some different areas.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, you seem to be quite spiritual, let's call it that. And I think, in my opinion, everybody's spiritual. We all have these super powers, abilities that we can harness and tap into. Just not all of us are using them. Also, what I want to ask you, would you say that for you, it came like kind of abruptly, like it was that moment that you said, or did you feel you had this before, you just weren't listening to it that much? Like how at what speed did it come onto you?
So I always felt that I was very intuitive. You know, I would think something and then, I mean, it could be months, weeks, years, and then it would happen like, oh, okay, cool, that's nice, that's great, I thought about that and it happened, you know. I never really paid too much attention to that. But then this whole awakening, or whatever you want to call it, it really happened fast. You know, Samantha told me, this is what we need to do. Like, oh, okay, cool, I trust you. I don't know why, but cool. And it just happened very quickly. Samantha's plan was to have, you know, this whole process take a couple of months and really get me slowly into mediumship and, you know, really trusting my intuition. You know, for her it was going to be a slow process, but the spirit world was like, hell no, let's do it now. And that's why within 2 weeks I was channeling. And really in the beginning for me it was like, oh, this is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Why me? Why would I be able to channel? You know, this is crazy. And I really went through these stages of, no, it's ridiculous and crazy and it's not real, you know. And then the spirit world was quite physical with me. You know, I would think like, I need to give up on this. So in one of my channelings with Samantha, she told me that Croatia is the country I was meant to be in. Because my Croatian girlfriend and I broke up, so like, well, what's the point in being here? I can go back to my family and friends in South Africa. Spirit world was like, no, you stay in Croatia, you've got work to do here. And I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm tired of this trying. What am I doing here? Wasting time? I'm going back to South Africa. And then, so let me just add, I hate bumping my head. I think it's the stupidest thing that I could do, you know. So I'm very attentive to a cupboard being open or, you know, anything that I could bump my head on. And I had this thought of, I'm giving up on this country, I'm going back to South Africa. And I went into my bathroom and the window was open and something was on the floor. So I wanted to pick it up and I made a note like, hey, the window is open, don't bump your head. I knew the window was open. I bent down to pick it up, but still got it in my mind, hey, the window's open. I stand up and I bump my head so hard that the hair was still stuck to the bottom of the window. I was so angry, like so angry, because I knew that the window was open and I still bumped my head. Then the next day, again, it was a similar kind of thought, like I'm giving up on something and that's it. And I went into the lounge, I needed to charge something, and I had cupboards above and one below, and I went to put the thing on charge and I looked like, oh, I'm not going to bump my head there, there's no way, it's too narrow. So I put the thing on charge, I stand up and I bump my head again. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I haven't bumped my head in 2 years, and now within 2 days I've done it twice. Like, what is going on? And Samantha sending me messages like, hey, what's happening? Like, I keep getting this feeling that I need to tell you, like, hey, how many more times do you need to bump your head before you get the message? I said, oh, are you serious? I've bumped my head twice in 2 days. She just laughs, so you're really bumping your head? Like, yeah, I'm really bumping my head. She said, what were you thinking about just before? And I tell her, like, I was thinking of quitting everything in Croatia and going back to South Africa. She's like, man, stop. That's not how it's meant to be. And they're telling you, by you bumping your head, because it's something that you hate doing, they're letting you know this way of thinking is wrong. So stop thinking that you're going back to South Africa, otherwise you're going to keep bumping your head. So as soon as I came to terms, I need to add, free will is a thing. I totally have free will. I could have packed my bags and moved back to South Africa easily. But there was still something in me saying, like, stay, just stay. But then, you know, my ego kicks in, like, no, just leave, rather go back. And I bumped the head. So now I come to terms with, this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'd be able to help most people, help myself as well. I haven't bumped my head, luckily, and it's been smooth sailing. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, actually, I also want to talk about some world happenings and world events that are currently going on.
Yes.
This is where my kind of fire lies.
Okay.
And I usually follow some politics, like world politics, what's going on in America, and also worldwide, this COVID that came up last year.
Yeah.
So how do you see the whole situation regarding humanity? So where we stand as people,
Yes.
what we need to figure out about ourselves, and what is the COVID trying to tell us?
Yeah. So, you know, I have stopped following the news just because it's constantly the same thing, and if anything big is happening, somebody will tell me, you know, I'll hear it through a friend or something, just because I got tired of it, you know, like my soul was tired of it, like all of these issues happening in the world, like we know they're happening, and a lot of stuff needs to be done to change this. And COVID happened, you know, and I think it was great. Like I feel terrible for the businesses that have suffered, but I really think it was a necessary thing to happen, because it really forced people to connect in different ways, you know. It forced families to actually spend time with each other. Work and being at the office was no longer an excuse, you know, so it was really having to be at home and forming a bond with your partner, with your children, with your parents, whoever it was. And it made people appreciate those connections more, because some people weren't able to see their parents. You know, now they're forced to not see their parents. They want to see them and spend time with them. You know, I think it really helped people realize the value of that human connection, which I think for the last couple of years has really been lost. You know, it's all been like materialistic. I have to work, I have to make this money, I have to buy a Porsche, I have to have a big house, where people were really losing the value and point of life, you know. And I mean, of course I would love a Porsche and a big house, but like that's not where my focus is. My focus is having these bonds and appreciating these bonds that I have with these people, and appreciating the time that I'm able to sit with people, because for so long I wasn't able to sit with people, you know, and I'm a very outgoing person. I love spending time with people, but then during this epidemic, I was forced to isolate, you know. I mean, I had my girlfriend and her mum was living with us as well, so we had each other, but we lived with each other and that was great, but then it was the outside. I couldn't go to work because I work with people, so that was not allowed. We couldn't go to bars and be with friends, you know, and initially there was fear in me because I didn't understand what was happening and what was going on, so friends were meeting, like at somebody's house, and I wouldn't go because I can't do this, I don't know what, you know, because there was so much, so little understanding of what this whole virus was and what was causing it and what it was doing. And then I went through the breakup and obviously moved to my own apartment and really started enjoying the isolation. You know, it gave me that time to really get to know myself, to learn myself, and I think that the society that we're in currently, people don't spend their time getting to know themselves, you know. It's like, what do you enjoy? What do you like? Oh, I like beer, I like the color blue, I like it when it rains, you know. But okay, but like, what is it that drives you? Oh, money, you know. Whereas now, you're sitting at home, you've got all of the money in the bank account because you can't go out spending it. What is there driving you, you know? And I think it was so good because it really opened people up to exploring who they are, and if they had a partner, exploring who their partner was, and really getting to know themselves and getting to know each other. So I think it was, you know, maybe I'm just looking on the positive side of this whole virus. And yes, it has caused a lot of damage mentally and physically to people, but it's also, I think, created a lot of good. You know, people understand themselves a lot more. You know, I've seen a huge shift in people, whereas something that was driving them 2 years ago is totally different now. You know, like they found a passion. Something was ignited in them, like, oh, I want to paint or make pottery or sew clothing, or, you know, so it caused a whole life shift for people. And I think on the spirituality side, like I said, it gave people the time, you know. If you saw a lot more stuff was happening online, and it really like was online meditations or, you know, stuff like that, where people were like, okay, well, I mean, I've got an hour to spare, it's not like I'm going anywhere. So let's try out this meditation or this some other kind of spiritual ceremony.
Yoga or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was. And really opening them up to this whole other aspect. Because normally it's like, wake up in the morning, have a coffee, have a shower, get to work, you know, do. Then maybe go to the bar after work for a drink with friends, go home and exhausted and sleep. Now you've got all of this time, you start exploring different things and saying like, oh, yoga is really cool and it really makes me feel good. Or meditation, like, I'm having so many ideas. Like, okay, maybe 90% of the ideas are total shit, but 10% are really cool and something I can work with and create from there. And I'd say in the last year, you've really seen how creative humans can be, you know? Like creating online parties or whatever it is, we've really become more creative, you know. I am looking forward to being able to spend time with family and friends and in person and not wear a mask and actually know what people look like. You know, like I said, I work with people, half of the people I don't know what they look like. If they weren't wearing a mask, I wouldn't recognize them at all, you know. So I'm looking forward to that all disappearing, but I think it was such a good journey for everybody to be on. I mean, we were forced into it, but I think it did us good in a way.
Forcing us to not connect actually made us connect in different ways.
Even more, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing that, you know, there is a different way of connecting, like Yeah.
I love the fact, don't know if you both realize it, but I love the fact that you are talking like it's over.
Yeah.
Like it's already behind us.
That's the optimistic part in me.
Yeah, but I also feel it, like you said, people are opening up, people are exploring different things and different kind of connections. You know, I think we passed, I can say for everybody, but like the majority, as I see it, we passed a certain point of, let's say, we cannot be alone anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And we got that part, what you said, that was fantastic for the most of us, you know, to experience yourself, to experience, I don't want to quote you because you just said it, but in a way, we are, at least the majority is over that part, and I think it's more of a feeling that it's loosening up and coming to an end. And
Yes.
for me, at least, I think that it's going to be over when the rest of the people get
To
integrated,
this
let's say.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is something that's out there, and we have lived with it for the last year. You know, the first couple of months was hectic and chaotic. I mean, people were buying toilet paper, you know. I mean, now I think about it and I laugh about that. Like, they had toilet paper. Like, why? Not food, but toilet paper.
Crazy. Yeah.
Totally, it was totally crazy. And I mean, you think about that now, like that chaos, and most of us, I mean, I think maybe everybody, has never been through an epidemic, you know, like that. It was good for us to go through because it brought up different feelings and emotions and different thinkings, and you know, now we come out on the other side, having gone through this and having widely different experiences, we've grown from it, you know. There has been a lot of devastation. This word devastation has been like the word of the week for me for some reason. Maybe when the interview comes out, I'll write a post about devastation. It's just been really on my mind lately, but I'm not sure why. But a lot of people have gone through devastation. You know, there's been so much loss of life, loss of contact, loss of communication, so much loss. I mean, I went through loss. I lost my partner. You know, I really thought we would spend the rest of our lives together, and that ended. I mean, not because of the virus, but because of whatever it was. But so I'm not taking away from that loss, you know. But I think everybody's gained from this experience. You know, a lot of people have a lot more appreciation for what they've got in their life and for who they've got in their life. So it really was a terrible time, but it was such a magical time for learning. And I think people really did learn, you know, even if they just did stay at home playing PlayStation or Google or YouTube or whatever. I think they learned, you know, people really started exploring more because they had a lot more time to explore. And because there was so much more information being put online about meditation or yoga or spirituality or classes. You know, some people were doing pottery classes online. Who would have thought about that? You know, the 25-year-old guy sitting at home going, actually, I'm interested in pottery. I would never have gone to an actual pottery class, but this is online, you know. I can put myself there, you know. I'm not putting myself out into the world going, I like pottery because I'm whatever. But here I'm sitting online and learning this tutorial or whatever it is. So it really, I think, opened a lot of opportunities for people. Yeah.
Okay, we never went through an epidemic. I would say in this part of the world we did have a war. That's not too far off. And people did go through some type of hardship before. Maybe today it's a bit different because this is more of a spiritual war, I would say.
Yes.
And we are a bit different today than we were then. So maybe people they learn they learn the different things through this. So where do you see us like coming out of this pandemic? Where do you see us going towards, like here in the Balkans and even
Yeah, I
worldwide?
mean, so I think globally there's been such a, I like the term awakening is so redundant really, because people aren't asleep. I hate that, like, you know, you have an argument, a spiritual argument with somebody and they come back is like, oh, you're asleep. I hate that. I really don't like that term, but it does feel like a lot of people are seeing more, you know, that there is more to life. There is more to this body. There's more to us, you know. There is this whole spiritual aspect, and I've seen online, especially online, a lot more people are starting to open up to their spiritual side and to discuss their spiritual side, and that's really, really cool, because then that's a lot more, it's creating a lot more understanding between people, you know, whereas you sit in a bar and you talk about football clubs, that's causing arguments and, you know, rivalries, you know, and
Some people like football, you know.
some people like football.
I'm not saying that I personally don't that much, but I'm saying it's good as a sport or whatever.
But totally.
It's not the only thing in life that's so important. There are more and more important things in life than some sort of a sport or some club or something that's over there, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more
not really
here,
affecting you and your life and the way you do things. You know, I follow this guy on Facebook, and he was helping businesses to be businesses.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing happened, and he had to change his whole way of thinking, and he is now helping people become themselves. You know. So sort of like a life coach. So he moved from coaching businesses to be a business. Now it's people to be themselves and more interactive. Whereas I think I'm trying that as well, you know, guiding people and what they need guidance with. But I really have seen a huge shift spiritually. And again, I haven't changed the people that I spend my time with that much. My friends are still my friends from 2 years ago to now, but there's just a lot more openness about spirituality, and people really discuss their feelings a lot more, you know. There's been many years where we don't discuss our feelings. They don't matter. We need to do what we need to do to survive. And then people obviously get depressed or have mental breakdowns, and it's because they're not able to open up and talk. Now people are really open to talking and discussing feelings and emotions and what's happening, like really happening in their lives, instead of what happened on the TV last week, you know. So there's this whole shift taking place, and I see it in the Balkans as well, because I'm living here and I'm experiencing that firsthand. And what I've noticed is all it really takes is having a conversation with somebody, you know. Whereas before, people were really quick to judge based on how a person looks, you know, or, you know, they only want to talk about getting drunk in the park or whatever. It's really, you know, you open yourself up to a conversation, be prepared to listen, you know, listen to understand, not listen to respond, and you'll see there's such a huge shift that's taken place where people are really more open to spirituality, mediumship, understanding that maybe we are being guided by external forces. There's a friend of mine, I was really drawn to tell him about the journey. It was a few months ago, so I had just started. I was really drawn to tell this guy about my journey, which made no sense, because I was like, he's just going to judge the hell out of me, tell me I'm crazy and I've lost my mind and I should get help. But I really was drawn to tell him. So I met him, I I had the conversation with him. He sat there like, this is amazing. His response totally shocked me. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting. And that's it as well. Like, we need to stop having such high expectations of other people and just be open. I mean, not high expectations, but stop expecting and just be open to receiving, and you will be totally surprised. Like, I was totally surprised. I was expecting to be ridiculed. He could possibly have kicked me out of his house and told me, like, never contact me again, you know? That was my expectation. And what I actually got was totally opposite. He was just like, this is amazing, like, tell me more. And he was so supportive, which really blew my mind, you know? Whereas now, I am really open and free and I'm able to discuss everything with people, just because what I'm expecting to happen generally won't, because people are full of surprises.
Yeah, we should maybe stop judging people and how we think the situation is going to turn out, because the things that we think are usually based on fear and
that's exactly it. Yeah. Stop.
And actually, you actually said it. It's our faults.
Exactly.
It's not them.
It's not
It's
them.
our
It's
faults
ours,
that we are putting out. It's not them. It's
Yes.
So
Yeah, exactly.
maybe listen more and
Yeah.
listen more to the heart, like you said,
Yes.
and not see what the mind has thought up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that really opens up a whole other realm of discussions and conversations, and you don't know where it could lead to. Yeah.
yeah, I have to ask you if you're okay with this. It's a big important question for me, and I feel it in a deep level. But why do you do what you do? What's the? I don't want to even explain the question.
Yeah.
I want to come from you.
Yes. So I love this question because I have the answer now. You know, before it was like, I'm not sure, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But now, I do what I do because, like I said earlier in the interview, I love helping people, you know. So I worked in customer service because I was able to help people. But that wasn't helping people. Now what I'm doing is I'm really helping people. And this makes me so happy. Like, every time I have a session with somebody, they leave here looking like a different person. So I've had a positive effect on that person, and that leaves a positive energy with me. That makes me so happy, and this is why I do what I do. You know, life shouldn't be difficult. Sometimes it is, sometimes we can't control it. And I want to guide people and help them and let them see the brighter side of things and the brighter side of life, and give them the information that's going to help them, you know, progress and move forward and open themselves up to a different avenue maybe, or a different way of thinking, or a different way of doing. That's totally up to them. I have no control over that. But being able to guide them and help them in that sense makes me so happy. And I am living from a place of happiness, you know. I have very few sad days. And on that note, I have very few happy days. Like, I'm in this good middle ground of, it's a level between happiness and sadness, you know. I'd say I'm really content, and that's a really perfect place to be. Because if I'm super happy, any event could happen to take that happiness away from me. Whereas I'm in a place of contentment, and there's nothing that can take it away from me, you know. I have this good balance, and that's what I get from helping people, you know. And I do experience extreme joy, but that's never a permanent place to be. But me, with this content feeling, it has been a pretty permanent feeling for the last couple of months, and that's really so nice for me, you know. I feel balanced, and I feel happy, and I feel like I'm in a good place and a good space to give people the help and guidance that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's actually a great answer, and I want to touch on that, what you said about keeping a kind of a balance, between extreme happiness or depression in a way,
Yeah.
because a lot of the, let's say, new age or mystic stuff, or I don't want to call out names or point fingers
Yeah.
on anybody or anything, but it tends to lead like you have to think positive thoughts, you have to always live like a happy life or whatever, you know, and it's not that.
It's not that. That is so stressful.
That is.
Because the minute I stop thinking positively, I'm stressing myself out. Oh no,
I'm not.
I need to get back to thinking positively. It's fucking stressful, man. And that's not fair on people. Like, yes, be positive. That's fine. You can't be positive all the time, you know.
I'm saying that because I'm let's say a positive guy. I lean into positivity.
Yeah.
But you cannot be happy all the time or positive all the time.
You know what? It's like you can't appreciate the light or the sun without having darkness, right? And that's the same thing. You can't appreciate being happy if you don't have those darker days or sad days. You can't appreciate being positive all the time if you don't have a little bit of negativity happening. Because if you're happy all the time, then what is happiness? It's not really there until you feel some sadness, you know, and then that reinforces the happiness. Like, oh, okay, I'm happy, you know. If you're just on this constant, like, positivity, man, something big is going to knock you to bring you back down to earth, to be like, hey, there's also the other side of it, you know. So when you find that good balance of positive and negative, or happy and sad, that's a great place to be. I could not imagine being positive constantly. I think it would be so exhausting and stressful.
Yeah, you said it great.
Whereas the minute I feel some bit of negativity, I'll freak out because, oh no, I can't be negative, it can't happen. No, man, let it happen. Experience that negativity, let it go through you. You need to experience that negativity, especially to appreciate the positivity, you know. And it's like sadness. Experience that. Actually, it's any emotion. If you start to feel that, don't pull yourself out and be like, no, I need to think positive or be happy. No, be with that emotion. Feel that emotion. Give it the space that it needs. You know, don't let it take over your life, but just give it some space in you, experience it, and let it go, and then bring yourself back to your happy medium, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there are these positivity coaches, or whatever they're called, and great, you know, that's really good, but that's what we're seeing online. They're not telling us about their dark days and their negative thoughts. It happens, you know, it really does happen. And I really think people need to embrace emotions a lot more. You know, this last week, I had super sad days. That's why devastation came up. I was devastated. I sat on my sofa and I cried and cried and cried. And it was so strange. Like, a family friend of mine passed away. I hadn't seen her in 4 years. And I was sad about it. I wasn't really upset about it, but I was sad that she had died. It was a death. It's always sad. Then I found out the very next day that one of my volunteers committed suicide on Monday.
Your volunteer, sorry, could you expand a bit?
So, I work for a company here in Zagreb called Impact Hub, and we take on volunteers. Volunteers can come and work off their...
It's a part of your work. Let's leave it at that.
It's part of my
I just
work.
wanted to understand where the volunteers work.
Yes, so,
Okay.
yeah. So part of the other work that I do. And it really shocked me. But the thing is, I didn't really know this volunteer. Maybe I'd seen him 4 times in the last year and a half, you know, that we had worked together. So I didn't really know him. But that set something off in me, and it was really clearly emotions and feelings that I needed to be experiencing and going through, you know. So it took that death and that suicide to bring it all out, and I allowed it to happen. I sat on my sofa and I just allowed it to happen. And it took a day. I got those feelings and emotions out, and then I was back to my normal self, you know. And I think it's really important for people to embrace their feelings and emotions. Acknowledge them. They're real, you know. So don't like, oh, I'm sad, but I'll forget about it. It's not how it works, you know. You bury that sadness and bury that sadness and bury that sadness, and eventually it's going to come out, and it's going to be a huge sadness. Experience it, be with it, let it go through you when it's there, and then it's gone, you know. It was the same, like I had said earlier, any death or breakup or bad stages that I went through in the past, I would drink it away. I wasn't experiencing it, you know.
Yeah.
I was just drinking and burying it and burying it and having fun with my friends and burying it, you know. Whereas now when this breakup happened, oh man, I experienced every single past breakup and death because I had kept burying it. Now that I was experiencing this breakup and the sadness and the anger, it brought out that sadness and anger from 10 years ago, you know. So instead of burying your emotions and feelings, experience it and feel it and move on from there, you know. But really let it be, give it that space, because then you're not burying it. That's just doing more harm to you than good. And that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, we won't keep you much longer. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So since you said you're stuck here in Croatia, let's see more of that.
Yeah.
You're stuck with us.
What are your plans for the future? Like, you have any projects that you're working on?
Yes, I have a very exciting project that I'm working on. I would like to put more effort into it, which I will be doing soon, because I want to create a retreat in Croatia. It will be a soul-based retreat, and it's giving a space to shamans and healers and guides to do what they do best, you know, help them guide people, and, you know, it will be education, it will be experiencing shamans or mediums, but it's giving people that space to be able to experience it with people that are able to guide, you know. So obviously I'll have certain criteria for guides and shamans, and I don't want, like I said earlier, mystics with crystal balls, just talking absolute whatever. I want really experienced people to be there helping and guiding people on this soul journey. I can tell you firsthand that it's not an easy process. I would never have been able to do it by myself. And I think having a retreat like this, open to anybody, I think is totally necessary, because it will be a space for people to feel that it's okay to be experiencing what they're experiencing, you know, because a lot of people start this spiritual journey, but then it gets ugly, so they stop, you know, because you speak to people about a spiritual journey and they're like, oh, it's all love and rainbows and unicorns. It's not, you know, it's clearing out the dark, dirty stuff, you know, it's really like walking through hell to come out onto the other side. And that's what people don't realize, it's getting through that difficult, dark stages to come out to the light, rainbows, unicorns and everything else. You know, you really have to experience that and clear out those energies to come there. And with the retreat, it's going to be that space where people are supported. They have the shamans or the guides. They're supporting them through this journey and giving them guidance. And who knows, I mean, it could be one day, you know, maybe you just want to come there for a ceremony, which is great, or you want to come there for a full-on experience, which, I mean, we'll get to the finer details, but it could be a full-on experience that you have, you know. But it's a place of safety and support, and really a soulful retreat.
I love how you're describing it like it's already there.
Because
So-
I'm already I see it already. You know, I feel that I have it already.
Right.
I speak to people like I've already got it, and then I want to come there. Yeah, okay, I'll let you know. So I am in the process of creating it. I'm still in planning stages. Obviously, it takes money, so I'm working on finding investors for this project. Obviously, it needs to be the right investors. You know, I don't want money-hungry guys, because it is a process, and I understand I am asking for money, but I also need time to create and build it. So banks are definitely out. I don't want support from banks, but more from people that have an understanding about what it is, you know, that feel the passion that I have, and that the other soulful people that I'm working with, you know, they feel that passion too.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, man.
And for me, I have pictured it in various places in the world. I found an amazing piece of land in Scotland, and for me that would have been absolutely incredible. This land was massive, whereas if you wanted to go and spend time by yourself, we wouldn't be able to find you, because this land is so huge. But then I really spent time, you know, looking at the pictures and feeling how it would feel to be there, and it just didn't make sense. And then obviously I'm from South Africa, so I know South Africa, and I know the energy and the feeling and the people there. So I spent time envisioning this retreat being in South Africa, and it just didn't feel right, you know. And then I think of Istria, and that for me is the place. Like, the energy feels right. I do believe a lot in signs, and the one day I was driving to work, and I said, I just need a sign that Istria is the place for this retreat. And in front of me was a car with the registration IA, and immediately, as soon as I saw it, I connected Istria. Like, that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw IA. I was like, okay, that's cool, great. Now I've got a connection with Istria, you know, like a sign connection. Yeah, I mean, it means nothing, but just the fact that I saw that, and immediately Istria came to my mind when I saw IA, that for me was a sign for me. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I kept driving, and then more and more I started seeing IA on registrations. I'm like, all right, I get the point. This is cool, I got it. And then I told my colleague about this, and then driving home, I see it again, IA. Cool, I understand, I get the message. Then I got a new car last week, or the week before last, and a friend of mine collected it and brought it here for me, and it was a new registration, so I hadn't seen the registration or anything, because the previous registration was Pula, which is in Istria, so already that was a good sign when I saw the car. But when I got it and I saw the new registration, it was IA. I thought, okay, they're really trying to tell me that Istria is the place that I need to be. So there's always signs, if you're just willing to
follow
see
them.
and follow them. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the signs are always around us. We just need to
Be
Be aware.
to receiving them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome talk. Awesome talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
This
Thank
was really
you.
fun, actually.
Yes, I really enjoyed that.
For our pilot, I'm very satisfied. Yeah, you?
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and I think the people are really gonna like it too. But I just want to thank, first of all, Jonathan and you, Philip, for making all of this happen, and for all you guys. I'm gonna put the last word on Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching, and Jonathan, the camera is
Well,
all yours.
Firstly, I want to thank you guys, because I've really been pushed to do advertising for myself and what I do and put myself out there. So far it's been, you know, I speak to one or two people, and then they speak to one or two people, and that's how I've been doing it, and it's been really okay for me. But the universe disagrees, and they really want me to get myself out there more. And when you guys mentioned this interview, that for me was like, this is it. You know, this will be a great explanation to people of what I do and how I do things. And it would make my advertising a lot easier. So I really, really thank you two for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it and had fun. And for everybody watching, you know, believe in yourself, because you really have all of the answers in you. You just have to be open to accepting them and understanding them. Sometimes the answer isn't really what you want, but it's what you need. And trust yourself and trust your intuition. It really, really does wonders for a person.
You can look at it at that camera.
Yeah.
That's one is pointing at you. So if you want to talk to them directly, please do.
Yeah.
It's strange a bit, but
Yes. So really, yeah, trust yourself and trust your intuition. All of the questions that you have, you really do have the answers to. It might not make sense, and that's why people like me exist. It's to help you make sense of stuff that's happening in your life and guiding you in where you need to be guided. And don't be scared. Don't be scared of the universe. You know, it really is there for your highest good. Sometimes things don't feel like they're working out for you, and that's because you might not be doing what's best for you. You know, you didn't trust your instincts, so it's not working out because it's not meant to work out. Nobody's to blame. You're not to blame. You're meant to experience that for yourself. But reach out to people like me. You know, we're very happy to help. And like you heard earlier, I get a lot of joy from helping people. And thank you for watching. And thank you guys.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. We should stop. Right?
Yeah.